Hello, welcome to Noetry. I'm trying a new camera, so I hope that this works, but if it doesn't, I don't mind. I'll get some practice. Welcome, Egret. I need to brush you. Today, I have a topical theme in mind. We will begin with Ambrose Bierce's definition of war from the Devil's Dictionary. War, noun, a byproduct of the arts of peace. The most menacing political condition is a period of international amity. The student of history who has not been taught to expect the unexpected may justly boast himself inaccessible to the light. Quote, "In time of peace prepare for war," has never had a deeper meaning than is commonly discerned. It means not merely that all things earthly have an end, that changes the one immutable and eternal law, but that the soil of peace is thickly sown with the seeds of war, and singularly suited to their germination and growth. It was when Kubla Khan had decreed his, quote, stately pleasure dome, when, that is to say, there were peace and fat feasting in Xanadu, that he heard from far ancestral voices prophesying war. One of the greatest of poets, Coleridge was one of the wisest of men, and it was not for nothing that he read us this parable. Let us have a little less of, quote, hands across the sea, and a little more of that elemental distrust that is the security of nations. War loves to come like a thief in the night. Professions of eternal amity provide the night. And so, taking direction from Bierce, we will begin with Coleridge's Kubla Khan, or A Vision in a Dream, a fragment. In Xanadu did Kubla Khan a stately pleasure dome decree, where Alph, the sacred river, ran through caverns measureless to man, down to a sunless sea. So twice 5 miles of fertile ground with walls and towers were girdled round, and there were gardens bright with sinuous rills, where blossomed many an incense-bearing tree. And here were forests ancient as the hills, enfolding sunny spots of greenery. But oh, that deep romantic chasm which slanted down the green hill athwart a cedarn cover, a savage place, as holy and enchanted as ere beneath a waning moon was haunted by a woman wailing for her demon lover. And from this chasm, with ceaseless turmoil seething, as if this earth in fast, thick pants were breathing, a mighty fountain momently was forced, amid whose swift, half-intermitted burst huge fragments vaulted like rebounding hail, or chaffy grain beneath the thresher's flail. And mid these dancing rocks, at once and ever, it flung up momently the sacred river. 5 miles meandering with a mazy motion, through wood and dale, the sacred river ran, then reached the caverns measureless to man, and sank in tumult to a lifeless ocean. And mid this tumult Kubla heard from far ancestral voices prophesying war. The shadow of the dome of pleasure floated midway on the waves, where was heard the mingled measure from the fountain and the caves. It was a miracle of rare device, a sunny pleasure dome with caves of ice. A damsel with a dulcimer, in a vision once I saw. It was an Abyssinian maid, and on her dulcimer she played, singing of Mount Abora. Could I revive within me her symphony and song, to such a deep delight 'twould win me, that with music loud and long I would build that dome in air, that sunny dome, those caves of ice, and all who heard should see them there, and all should cry, beware, beware. His flashing eyes, his floating hair, weave a circle round him thrice, and close your eyes with holy dread, for he on honey dew hath fed and drunk the milk of paradise. And now a piece by Thomas Hardy, titled The Man He Killed. Had he and I but met by some old ancient inn, we should have sat us down to wet right many a napperkin. But ranged as infantry and staring face to face, I shot at him as he at me, and killed him in his place. I shot him dead because he was my foe. Just so. My foe, of course he was, that's clear enough. Although he thought he'd list, perhaps, offhand like, just as I was out of work, had sold his traps, no other reason why. Yes, quaint and curious is war. War is. You shoot a fellow down, you treat, if met, where any bar is, or help to half a crown. And now a poem by Siegfried Sassoon, titled They. The bishop tells us when the boys come back they will not be the same, for they'll have fought in a just cause. They lead the last attack on Antichrist. Their comrades' blood has bought new right to breed an honorable race. They have challenged death and dared him face to face. We're none of us the same, the boys reply, for George lost both his legs, and Bill's stone blind. Poor Jim's shot through the lungs and like to die, and Bert's gone syphilitic. You'll not find a chap who served that hasn't found some change. And the bishop said, the ways of God are strange. And another by Siegfried Sassoon, on passing the new Menin gate. Who will remember, passing through this gate, the unheroic dead who fed the guns? Who shall absolve the foulness of their fate, those doomed, conscripted, unvictorious ones? Crudely renewed, the salient holds its own. Paid are its dim defenders by this pomp, paid with a pile of peace-complacent stone, the armies who endured that sullen swamp. Here was the world's worst wound, and here with pride their name liveth forever, the gateway claims. Was ever an immolation so belied as these intolerably nameless names? Well, might the dead who struggled in the slime rise and deride this sepulchre of crime. And now a piece by Laurence Binyon, a famous piece titled For the Fallen. With proud thanksgiving, a mother for her children, England mourns for her dead across the sea. Flesh of her flesh they were, spirit of her spirit, fallen in the cause of the free. Solemn the drums thrill, death august and royal sings sorrow up into immortal spheres. There is music in the midst of desolation, and a glory that shines upon our tears. They went with songs to the battle. They were young, straight of limb, true of eye, steady and aglow. They were staunch to the end against odds uncounted. They fell with their faces to the foe. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning we will remember them. They mingle not with their laughing comrades again. They sit no more at familiar tables of home. They have no lot in our labor of the daytime. They sleep beyond England's foam. But where our desires are, and our hopes profound, felt as a wellspring that is hidden from sight, to the innermost heart of their own land they are known as the stars are known to the night. As the stars that shall be bright when we are dust, moving in marches upon the heavenly plain, as the stars that are starry in the time of our darkness, to the end they remain. Now a piece by Philip Larkin, titled 1914. Those long uneven lines, standing as patiently as if they were stretched outside the Oval or Villa Park, the crowns of hats, the sun on mustached archaic faces, grinning as if it were all an August bank holiday lark. And the shut shops, the bleached, established names on the sunblinds, the farthings and sovereigns, and dark-clothed children at play, called after kings and queens, the tin advertisements for cocoa and twist, and the pubs wide open all day. And the countryside not caring, the place names all hazed over, with flowering grasses and fields, shadowing Domesday lines under wheat's restless silence. The differently dressed servants with tiny rooms in huge houses, the dust behind limousines. Never such innocence, never before or since, as changed itself to past without a word, the men leaving the gardens tidy, the thousands of marriages lasting a little while longer. Never such innocence again. And now a poem by Sara Teasdale, titled, There Will Come Soft Rains. There will come soft rains and the smell of ground, and swallows circling with their shimmering sound, and frogs in the pools singing at night, and wild plum trees in tremulous white. Robins will wear their feathery fire, whistling their whims on a low fence wire. And not one will know of the war, not one will care at last when it is done. Not one would mind, neither bird nor tree, if mankind perished utterly, and spring herself, when she woke at dawn, would scarcely know that we are gone. And now a couple of poems by William Wordsworth. The first, called In the Pass of Killicranky, an invasion being expected, October 1803. 6,000 veterans practiced in war's game, tried men at Killicranky were arrayed, against an equal host that wore the plaid, shepherds and herdsmen. Like a whirlwind came the Highlanders, the slaughter spread like flame, and Gary, thundering down his mountain road, was stopped, and could not breathe beneath the load of the dead bodies. 'Twas a day of shame for them whom precept and the pedantry of cold mechanic battle do enslave. Oh, for a single hour of that Dundee, who on that day the word of onset gave, like conquest would the men of England see, and her foes find alike inglorious grave. And another by William Wordsworth, To Toussaint Louverture. from 1802. Toussaint, the most unhappy man of men, whether the whistling rustic tend his plough within thy hearing, or thy head be now pillowed in some deep dungeon's earless den, O miserable chieftain, where and when wilt thou find patience, yet die not? Do thou wear rather in thy bonds a cheerful brow, though fallen thyself never to rise again, live and take comfort. Thou hast left behind powers that will work for thee. Air, earth, and skies, there's not a breathing of the common wind that will forget thee. Thou hast great allies. Thy friends are exultations, agonies, and love, and man's unconquerable mind. And another by Wordsworth. The martial courage of a day is vain, an empty noise of death, the battle's roar. If vital hope be wanting to restore, or fortitude be wanting to sustain armies or kingdoms, we have heard a strain of triumph, how the laboring Danube bore a weight of hostile courses. Drenched with gore were the wide fields, the hamlets heaped with slain. Yet see, the mighty tumult overpast, Austria, a daughter of her throne, hath sold, and her Tyrolean champion we behold murdered, like one ashore by shipwreck cast. Murdered without relief. Oh, blind as bold to think that such assurance can stand fast. And finally, by Wordsworth from 1811. The power of armies is a visible thing, formal and circumscribed in space and time. But who the limits of that power shall trace which a brave people into light can bring, or hide at will, for freedom combating? By just revenge inflamed, no foot may chase, no eye can follow to a fatal place that power, that spirit, whether on the wing, like the strong wind, or sleeping like the wind within its awful caves. From year to year springs this indigenous produce far and near. No craft this subtle element can bind, rising like water from the soil to find in every nook a lip that it may cheer. And now by James Shirley. I believe he's translating Ovid's Metamorphoses. This is from the Contention of Ajax and Ulysses for the armor of Achilles, from 1659. Dirge. The glories of our blood and state are shadows, not substantial things. There is no armor against fate. Death lays his icy hand on kings. Scepter and crown must tumble down, and in the dust be equals made with the poor crooked scythe and spade. Some men with swords may reap the field and plant fresh laurels where they kill, but their strong nerves at last must yield. They tame but one another still. Early or late they stoop to fate, and must give up their murmuring breath when they, pale captives, creep to death. The garlands wither on your brow, then boast no more your mighty deeds. Upon death's purple altar now, see where the victor victim bleeds. Your heads must come to the cold tomb. Only the actions of the just smell sweet and blossom in their dust. And now, a poem by Robert Herrick, to the king upon his coming with his army into the west. Referring to Charles I. This is from 1644. Welcome, most welcome to our vows and us, most great and universal genius, the drooping west, which hitherto has stood as one in long lamented widowhood, looks like a bride now, or a bed of flowers, newly refreshed both by the sun and showers. War, which before was horrid, now appears lovely in you, brave prince of cavaliers. A deal of courage in each bosom springs by your access. O you the best of kings, ride on with all white omens, so that where your standards up, we fix a conquest there. And now a piece by William Blake, a war song to Englishmen. Prepare, prepare the iron helm of war, bring forth the lots, cast in the spacious orb. The angel of fate turns them with mighty hands and casts them out upon the darkened earth. Prepare, prepare. Prepare your hearts for death's cold hand. Prepare your souls for flight, your bodies for the earth. Prepare your arms for glorious victory. Prepare your eyes to meet a holy God. Prepare, prepare. Whose fatal scroll is that? Methinks 'tis mine. Why sinks my heart? Why faltereth my tongue? Had I 3 lives, I'd die in such a cause, and rise with ghosts over the well-fought field. Prepare, prepare. The arrows of Almighty God are drawn. Angels of death stand in the lowering heavens. Thousands of souls must seek the realms of light and walk together on the clouds of heaven. Prepare, prepare. Soldiers, prepare. Our cause is heaven's cause. Soldiers, prepare. Be worthy of our cause. Prepare to meet our fathers in the sky. Prepare, O troops that are to fall today. Prepare, prepare. Alfred shall smile and make his harp rejoice. The Norman William and the learned clerk and the Lionheart and black-browed Edward with his loyal queen shall rise and welcome us. Prepare, prepare. From Henry V. One of my favorite speeches. Spoken by King Henry V. From Act 3, Scene 1. Once more unto the breach, dear friends, once more, or close the wall up with our English dead. In peace, there's nothing so becomes a man as modest stillness and humility. But when the blast of war blows in our ears, then imitate the action of the tiger. Stiffen the sinews, summon up the blood, disguise fair nature with hard-favored rage, then lend the eye a terrible aspect. Let it pry through the portage of the head, like the brass cannon. Let the brow o'erwhelm it, as fearfully as doth a galled rock o'erhang and jutty his confounded base, swilled with the wild and wasteful ocean. Now set the teeth and stretch the nostril wide, hold hard the breath and bend up every spirit to his full height. On, on, you noblest English, whose blood is fet from fathers of war-proof, fathers that, like so many Alexanders, have in these parts from morn till even fought, and sheathed their swords for lack of argument. Dishonor not your mothers. Now attest that those whom you called fathers did beget you. Be copy now to men of grosser blood, and teach them how to war. And you, good yeoman, whose limbs were made in England, show us here the mettle of your pasture. Let us swear that you are worth your breeding, which I doubt not. For there is none of you so mean and base that hath not noble lustre in your eyes. I see you stand like greyhounds in the slips, straining upon the start. The game's afoot. Follow your spirit, and upon this charge cry God for Harry, England, and St. George. And now, another famous piece by Longfellow, titled The Landlord's Tale, known also as Paul Revere's Ride. Listen, my children, and you shall hear of the midnight ride of Paul Revere on the 18th of April in 75. Hardly a man is now alive who remembers that famous day and year. He said to his friend, "If the British march by land or sea from the town tonight, hang a lantern aloft in the belfry arch of the North Church Tower as a signal light. 1, if by land, and 2, if by sea, and I on the opposite shore will be, ready to ride and spread the alarm through every Middlesex village and farm, for the country folk to be up and to arm." Then he said good night, and with muffled oar silently rowed to the Charleston shore, just as the moon rose over the bay, where swinging wide at her moorings lay the Somerset, British man-o'-war, a phantom ship with each mast and spar, across the moon like a prison bar, and a huge black bulk that was magnified by its own reflection in the tide. Meanwhile his friend through the alley and street wanders and watches with eager ears, till in the silence around him he hears the muster of men at the barrack door, the sound of arms, and the tramp of feet, and the measured tread of the grenadiers marching down to their boats on the shore. Then he climbed the tower of the old North Church by the wooden stairs with the stealthy tread, to the belfry chamber overhead, and startled the pigeons from their perch on the sombre rafters that around him made masses and moving shapes of shade, by the trembling ladder steep and tall to the highest window in the wall, where he paused to listen and look down a moment on the roofs of the town, and the moonlight flowing over all. Beneath, in the churchyard, lay the dead, in their night encampment on the hill, wrapped in silence so deep and still that he could hear, like a sentinel's tread, the watchful night wind, as it went creeping along from tent to tent, and seeming to whisper, "All is well." A moment only he feels the spell of the place and the hour, and the secret dread of the lonely belfry and the dead. For suddenly all his thoughts are bent on a shadowy something far away, where the river widens to meet the bay, a line of black that bends and floats on the rising tide like a bridge of boats. Meanwhile, impatient to mount and ride, booted and spurred with a heavy stride, on the opposite shore walked Paul Revere. Now he patted his horse's side, now gazed at the landscape far and near, then, impetuous, stamped the earth, and turned and tightened his saddle girth. But mostly he watched with eager search the belfry tower of the old North Church, as it rose above the graves on the hill, lonely and spectral and sombre and still. And lo, as he looks on the belfry's height, a glimmer, and then a gleam of light. He springs to the saddle, the bridle he turns, but lingers and gazes, till full on his sight a second lamp in the belfry burns. A hurry of hoofs in a village street, a shape in the moonlight, a bulk in the dark, and beneath, from the pebbles, in passing, a spark struck out by a steed flying fearless and fleet, that was all. And yet through the gloom and the light, the fate of a nation was riding that night, and the spark struck out by that steed in his flight kindled the land into flame with its heat. He has left the village and mounted the steep, and beneath him, tranquil and broad and deep, is the mystic, meeting the ocean tides, and under the alders that skirt its edge, now soft on the sand, now loud on the ledge, is heard the tramp of his steed as he rides. It was 12 by the village clock when he crossed the bridge into Medford town. He heard the crowing of the cock and the barking of the farmer's dog, and felt the damp of the river fog that rises after the sun goes down. It was 1 by the village clock when he galloped into Lexington. He saw the gilded weathercock swim in the moonlight as he passed, and the meeting-house windows, blank and bare, gaze at him with a spectral glare, as if they already stood aghast at the bloody work they would look upon. It was 2 by the village clock when he came to the bridge in Concord town. He heard the bleating of the flock and the twitter of birds among the trees, and felt the breath of the morning breeze blowing over the meadows brown. And one was safe and asleep in bed, who at the bridge would be first to fall, who that day would be lying dead, pierced by a British musket ball. You know the rest. In the books you have read, how the British regulars fired and fled, how the farmers gave them ball for ball, from behind each fence and farmyard wall, chasing the redcoats down the lane, then crossing the fields to emerge again, under the trees at the turn of the road, and only pausing to fire and load. So through the night rode Paul Revere, and so through the night went his cry of alarm, to every Middlesex village and farm, a cry of defiance and not of fear, a voice in the darkness, a knock at the door, and a word that shall echo forevermore. For borne on the night wind of the past, through all our history, to the last, in the hour of darkness and peril we need, the people will waken and listen to hear the hurrying hoofbeats of that steed, and the midnight message of Paul Revere. And now a piece by Emerson, Concord Hymn, sung at the completion of the Battle Monument, July 4th, 1837. By the rude bridge that arched the flood, their flag to April's breeze unfurled, here once the embattled farmers stood and fired the shot heard round the world. The foe long since in silence slept, alike the conqueror silent sleeps, and time the ruined bridge has swept down the dark stream which seaward creeps. On this green bank, by this soft stream, we set today a votive stone, that memory may their deed redeem, when, like our sires, our sons are gone. Spirit that made those heroes dare to die and leave their children free, bid time and nature gently spare the shaft we raise to them and thee. This is a piece by Walt Whitman. Come up from the fields, Father. Come up from the fields, Father, here's a letter from our Pete. And come to the front door, Mother, here's a letter from thy dear son. Lo, 'tis autumn. Lo, where the trees deeper green, yellower and redder, cool and sweeten Ohio's villages with leaves fluttering in the moderate wind. where apples ripe in the orchards hang and grapes on the trellised vines. Smell you the smell of the grapes on the vines? Smell you the buckwheat where the bees were lately buzzing? Above all, lo, the sky so calm, so transparent after the rain, and with wondrous clouds. Below, too, all calm, all vital and beautiful, and the farm prospers well. Down in the fields all prospers well, but now from the fields come Father, come at the daughter's call, and come to the entry of Mother, to the front door come right away. Fast as she can she hurries, something ominous, her steps trembling. She does not tarry to smooth her hair, nor adjust her cap. Open the envelope quickly. Oh, this is not our son's writing, yet his name is signed. Oh, a strange hand writes for our dear son, oh, stricken mother's soul. All swims before her eyes, flashes with black. She catches the main words only, sentences broken. Gunshot wound in the breast, cavalry skirmish, taken to hospital, at present low, but will soon be better. Ah, now the single figure to me, amid all teeming and wealthy Ohio with all its cities and farms, sickly white in the face and dull in the head, very faint by the jamb of a door leans. Grieve not so, dear mother. The just grown daughter speaks through her sobs. The little sisters huddle around speechless and dismayed. See, dearest mother, the letter says Pete will be soon better. Alas, poor boy, he will never be better, nor maybe needs to be better, that brave and simple soul. While they stand at home at the door, he is dead already. The only son is dead. But the mother needs to be better. She with thin form presently dressed in black, by day her meals untouched, then at night fitfully sleeping, often waking, in the midnight waking, weeping, longing with one deep longing. Oh, that she might withdraw unnoticed, silent from life, escape and withdraw, to follow, to seek, to be with her dead son. Now a poem by Herman Melville. Shiloh, a Requiem, from April 1862. Skimming lightly, wheeling still, the swallows fly low over the field in clouded days, the forest field of Shiloh. Over the field where April rain solaced the parched one stretched in pain, through the pause of night that followed the Sunday fight, around the church of Shiloh. The church so lone, the log-built one, that echoed to many a parting groan, a natural prayer of dying foemen mingled there. Foemen at morn, but friends at eve, fame or country least their care. What like a bullet can undeceive? But now they lie low, while over them the swallows skim, and all is hushed at Shiloh. And this by Henry Timrod, titled Ode, sung on the occasion of decorating the graves of the Confederate dead at Magnolia Cemetery, Charleston, South Carolina, in 1867. Sleep sweetly in your humble grave, sleep, martyrs of a fallen cause, though yet no marble column craves the pilgrim here to pause. In seeds of laurel in the earth the blossom of your fame is blown, and somewhere, waiting for its birth, the shaft is in the stone. Meanwhile, behalf the tardy years which keep in trust your storied tombs, behold, your sisters bring their tears and these memorial blooms. Small tributes, but your shades will smile more proudly on these wreaths today than when some cannon-molded pile shall overlook this bay. Stoop, angels, hither from the skies. There is no holier spot of ground than where defeated valor lies, by morning beauty crowned. And this by E.E. Cummings, titled My Sweet Old Etc. My sweet old etc. Aunt Lucy during the recent war could, and what is more, did tell you just what everybody was fighting for. My sister Isabel created hundreds and hundreds of socks, not to mention shirts, flea-proof, ear-warmers, etc., wristers, etc. My mother hoped that I would die, etc. Bravely, of course. My father used to become hoarse, talking about how it was a privilege, and if only he could. Meanwhile, myself, etc., lay quietly in the deep mud, etc., dreaming, etc., of your smile, eyes, knees, and of your, etc. The Conscientious Objector by Carl Shapiro. The gates clanged and they walked you into jail, more tense than felons, but relieved to find the hostile world shut out. The flags that dripped from every mother's window pane, obscene, the bloodlust sweating from the public heart, the dog authority slavering at your throat, a sense of quiet, of pulling down the blind possessed you. Punishment you felt was clean. The decks, the catwalks, and the narrow light composed a ship. This was a mutinous crew, troubling the captains for plain decencies, a Mayflower brim with pilgrims headed out to establish new theocracies to west, a Noah's Ark coasting the topmost seas 10 miles above the sodomites and fish. These inmates loved the only living doves. Like all men hunted from the world, you made a good community, voyaging the storm to no safe Plymouth or green Ararat. Trouble or calm, the men with Bibles prayed, the gaunt politicals construed our hate. The opposite of all armies, you were best opposing uniformity and yourselves. Prison and personality were your fate. You suffered not so physically, but knew maltreatment, hunger, ennui of the mind. Well might the soldier kissing the hot beach erupting in his face damn all your kind. Yet you who saved neither yourselves nor us are equally with those who shed the blood, the heroes of our cause. Your conscience is what we come back to in the armistice. And this is by William Butler Yeats. An Irish airman foresees his death. I know that I shall meet my fate somewhere among the clouds above. Those that I fight I do not hate, those that I guard I do not love. My country is Kiltartan Cross, my countrymen Kiltartan's poor. No likely end could bring them loss or leave them happier than before. Nor law, nor duty bade me fight, nor public men, nor cheering crowds. A lonely impulse of delight drove to this tumult in the clouds. I balanced all, brought all to mind. The years to come seemed waste of breath, a waste of breath, the years behind, in balance with this life, this death. Now another famous work, The Charge of the Light Brigade by Alfred Lord Tennyson. Half a league, half a league, half a league onward, all in the valley of death rode the 600. Forward the light brigade, charge for the guns, he said. Into the valley of death rode the 600. Forward the light brigade. Was there a man dismayed? Not though the soldier knew someone had blundered. There's not to make reply, there's not to reason why, there's but to do and die. Into the valley of death rode the 600. Cannon to the right of them, cannon to the left of them, cannon in front of them, volleyed and thundered. Stormed at with shot and shell, boldly they rode and well. Into the jaws of death, into the mouth of hell, rode the 600. Flashed all their sabres bare, flashed as they turned in air, sabring the gunners there, charging an army, while all the world wondered. Plunged in the battery smoke, right through the line they broke. Cossack and Russian reeled from the sabre stroke, shattered and sundered. Then they rode back, but not the 600. Cannon to the right of them, cannon to the left of them, cannon behind them volleyed and thundered. Stormed at with shot and shell, while horse and hero fell. They that had fought so well came through the jaws of death, black from the mouth of hell, all that was left of them, left of 600. When can their glory fade? Oh, the wild charge they made, all the world wondered. Honor the charge they made, honor the light brigade, noble 600. And this by Wilfred Owen, entitled Futility. Move him into the sun, gently its touch awoke him once, at home, whispering of fields unsown, always it woke him, even in France, until this morning and this snow. If anything might rouse him now, that kind old sun will know. Think how it wakes the seeds, woke once the clay of a cold star. Our limbs, so dear achieved, our sides full nerved, still warm, too hard to stir. Was it for this the clay grew tall? Oh, what made fatuous sunbeams toil to break earth's sleep at all? And a piece by Dylan Thomas. The hand that signed the paper felled a city. The hand that signed the paper felled a city. 5 sovereign fingers taxed the breath, doubled the globe of dead and halved a country. These 5 kings did a king to death. The mighty hand leads to a sloping shoulder. The finger joints are cramped with chalk. A goose's quill has put an end to murder that put an end to talk. The hand that signed the treaty bred a fever, and famine grew, and locusts came. Great is the hand that holds dominion over man by a scribbled name. The 5 kings count the dead, but do not soften the crusted wound, nor pat the brow. A hand rules pity as a hand rules heaven. Hands have no tears to flow. Oh, that's right. And one more from this book by Ogden Nash, whose name I knew but never really read. He's got an interesting style. Kind of an ode to duty. O duty, why hast thou not the visage of a sweetie or a cutie? Why glitter thy spectacles so ominously? Why art thou clad so abominously? Why art thou so different from Venus? And why do thou and I have so few interests mutually in common between us? Why art thou 50% martyr and 51% Tartar? Why is it thy unfortunate wont to try to attract people by calling on them either to leave undone the deeds they like or to do the deeds they don't? Why art thou so like an April post-mortem, or something that died in the autumn? Above all, why dost thou continue to hound me? Why art thou always albatrossly hanging around me? Thou so ubiquitous, and I so iniquitous. I seem to be the one person in the world thou art perpetually preaching at, who, or to who. Whatever looks like fun, there art thou standing between me and it, calling you-hoo. O duty, duty, how noble a man should I be hadst thou the visage of a sweetie or a cutie. But as it is, thou art so much forbiddinger than a Wodehouse hero's forbiddingest aunt, that in the words of the poet, when duty whispers low, thou must, this erstwhile youth replies, I just can't. We got a couple more. I wish you all peace, wealth, health, all the good stuff. Now a poem by Anne Sexton. The Truth the Dead Know. Gone, I say, and walk from church, refusing the stiff procession to the grave, letting the dead ride alone in the hearse. It is June. I am tired of being brave. We drive to the Cape. I cultivate myself where the sun gutters from the sky, where the sea swings in like an iron gate, and we touch. In another country, people die. My darling, the wind falls in like stones from the white-hearted water, and when we touch, we enter touch entirely. No one's alone. Men kill for this, or for as much. And what of the dead? They lie without shoes in their stone boats. They are more like stone than the sea would be if it stopped. They refuse to be blessed, throat, eye, and knuckle bone. This by Charles Bukowski, titled Pershing Square, Los Angeles, 1939. One orator proving there was a God, and another proving that there wasn't. And the crazy lady with the white and yellow hair, with the big dirty blue ribbon, the white striped dress, the tennis shoes, the bare dirty ankles, and the big dog with the matted, hardened fur. And there was the guitar player and the drum player and the flute player all about, the winos sleeping on the lawn, and all the while the war was rushing toward us. But somehow nobody argued about the war, or at least I never heard them. In the late afternoon I would go into one of the bars on 6th Street. I was 19, but I looked 30. I ordered scotch and water. I sat in a booth and nobody bothered me as the war rushed toward us. As the afternoon dipped into evening, I refused to pay for my drinks and demanded more. Give me another drink or I'll rip this place up. All right, they told me. One more, but it's the last, and don't come back, please. I liked being young and mean. The world didn't make any sense to me. As the night darkened, I'd go back to Pershing Square and sit on the benches and watch and listen to the people. The winos on the lawn passed bottles of muscatel and poured about as the war rushed toward us. I wasn't interested in the war. I didn't have anything. I didn't want anything. I had my half pint of whiskey and I nipped at it, rolled cigarettes and waited. I'd read half the books in the library and had spit them out. The war rushed toward us. The guitar player played his guitar, the drummer beat his drums, and the flute player played that thing, and it rushed toward us. The air was clear and cool. The stars seemed just 1,000 feet away above us, and you could see the red, burning tips of cigarettes, and there were people coughing and laughing and swearing, and some babbled and some prayed, and many just sat there doing nothing. There was nothing to do. It was 1939, and it would never be 1939 again in Los Angeles or any place else, and I was young and mean and lean, and I would never be that way again as it rushed toward us. Thank you all so much. Hope that you enjoyed this episode. This last piece is by Constantine Cavafy, a Greek writer, and it is translated from the Greek by Edmund Keeley and Philip Sherrard. Miss PM. I'll read the super text. This poem has often been quoted because it fits well with the division of Europe after World War II by the Cold War. Nobody seems to have paid attention to the date of its writing, 1898. Cavafy, though he explored in his poems all the aspects of his Hellenistic world, including the Greek-speaking Byzantine Empire, understood the word barbarian in its original Greek meaning, as applied to all those who are outside and have, instead of human speech, incoherent gibberish. His intuition allowed him to capture a centuries-old opposition between the inside and the outside of civilization. Waiting for the barbarians. Oh, this one is a little barbarian right here. Just have Miss Jingle join us. Yes, too. What are we waiting for assembled in the forum? The barbarians are due here today. Why isn't anything going on in the Senate? Why are the senators sitting there without legislating? Because the barbarians are coming today. What's the point of senators making laws now? Once the barbarians are here, they'll do the legislating. Why did our emperor get up so early? And why is he sitting enthroned at the city's main gate, in state, wearing the crown? Because the barbarians are coming today, and the emperor is waiting to receive their leader. He's even got a scroll to give him, loaded with titles and imposing names. Why have our two consuls and praetors come out today, wearing their scarlet togas? Why have they put on bracelets with so many amethysts, rings sparkling with magnificent emeralds? Why are they carrying elegant canes, beautifully worked in silver and gold? Because the barbarians are coming today, and things like that dazzle the barbarians. Why don't our distinguished orators turn up as usual to make their speeches, say what they have to say? Because the barbarians are coming today, and they're bored by rhetoric and public speaking. Why this sudden bewilderment, this confusion? How serious people's faces have become. Why are the streets and squares emptying so rapidly, everyone going home lost in thought? Because night has fallen and the barbarians haven't come. And some of our men just in from the borders say there are no barbarians any longer. Now what's going to happen to us without barbarians? Those people were a kind of solution. Salam.